Hailing from the Jersey Shore and raised as athletes, the Airey Bros have always shared a passion for physical culture, athletic performance, and human optimization, always striving to be the strongest versions of themselves, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Along the way, they've met some pretty amazing humans and have had some pretty epic adventures. The intention of Airey Bros Radio is to showcase these amazing people and the impact that they've had on them, and to share tips, tricks, and hacks so that you can win each day, every day.
You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
This is Alt Bloom, and you're listening to Airey Bros Radio. I did a Folgers jingle contest and won it, and was and I just like rewrote with the same tagline, "The best part of waking up," but rewrote the rest of it. And I actually ended up filming a whole commercial. That was the first time when I was leaving Montana, when I was in Montana, that I was like, oh, I could actually do this for like seriousness instead of like doing it for a hobby or for fun. So on the creative end, you're always it's separate from the performance end. The performance end, I usually do have a band, but I have a setup where, as you guys saw, I have a setup where I can play by myself, or I can play with just a drummer, or I can play with my full band. There's one thing that I knew for a bit, that I was always trying to get myself into an unconscious state, and because I think that the best songs are always written when you let them through, and it's really you're enabling them to come through, because your judgment's out on the floor. Dream sleep, your mattress store.
Yeah, are you in LA?
I am. I'm here right now.
How's the scene out that way?
It's been good. It's been cloudy the last couple days, which is actually brilliant. I always say when it's cloudy here, that means that it's like sunny. It's like sunny anywhere else, because you rarely get clouds here, so it's beautiful when you get to enjoy the clouds. So rarely. And I'm from Montana, a place where you get like a mix of. There you go. I had to find my kitchen, so we found it.
Nice. So you're from Montana. Rich said Whitefish?
Yeah, from Whitefish, Montana. Born and raised.
You ever spend time in Trego by any chance?
No, but I know where it is. Trego's more like off the beaten path. I know some people who have like moved out there to do like some like alternative housing and stuff like that.
Yeah, growing up, there was a wrestling camp I used to go out to. It was like a wilderness wrestling camp. It was at the school in Trego. We like sleep on the mats, but I spent summers back there and in Whitefish, and man, it is amazing out that way.
Dude, it is. I thank my parents all the time, because I obviously didn't choose to live there, but I thank them in hindsight, especially because it was such a small ski bum town growing up. Now it's starting to get a little bit more tourism coming through, which is beautiful. I'm glad that everyone's, to catch 22 when you see so many people in the mountains. You're like, oh man, I want to be alone here, but also like you can't hate. And I'm stoked that more people are getting into the outdoors. As long as they pick up their trash, I'm all good.
Yeah, I think you are our second Montana musician that we've had on.
Let's go, the Rocky Mountain Connect.
Yeah, we're friends with Drew McManus from Satsong, and where does he live, Jim? Is he in
I have no
Big
idea.
Sky? Maybe Big Sky or somewhere around that area.
Bozeman and Missoula are the two like main spots over there.
Okay.
Yeah. And Trigo.
You're the only one I've ever met that wasn't at that wrestling camp with me that knows Trego. I've met people who've lived in Montana their whole life that has never heard of Trego.
I swear to you, it was the last time I went home that I was talking to my dad knew a couple that had just come back from living out there for like 30 years, totally off grid. So that's the only reason I know what it is.
Yeah, so we used to, it was like a Christian wrestling camp. So we used to do community service and stuff. And we used to go bale hay or chop wood for the locals that couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And there was this place, it was probably about 45 minutes outside of Trego, and we couldn't go up there without an escort. And as we're driving up there, there's like all these burnt cars, and I keep on looking at the guys next to me. I'm like, what are we doing? It turns out there was this like old Vietnam commune up there with a bunch of dudes that just wanted to live their own life, and they pretty much patrolled it the way they wanted to patrol it. And if they didn't want you up there, they were going to take care of you. Like the cops didn't go up there. It was some real crazy shit. We're from New Jersey, so coming from New Jersey to that, it was eye-opening.
It's like Newark, but in the trees.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So other than the airport, have you been to Newark?
Yeah, I've been through. I've like there's been some, there was some sort of competition that I was there for at some point, and I remember we were staying outside, and literally someone got shot outside the center that we were at. while we were there. And I was like, all right, so this is Newark. And everyone's like, yeah, like don't walk too far, especially if you don't know your way around. And that was my only time hanging out there. And I don't remember what we were there. I don't know if we were there for a concert, but we were at some sort of conference center, and yeah, someone got shot while we were there. And I was like, all right, okay.
I'm good. Been there, done that.
Yeah, like either Trigo or Newark. Those are my two options.
So how do you like California compared to Montana? Was it a hard adjustment, or because you're out there making music and stuff, you'll do it wherever you need to?
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly it. I love music so much that there really is no other option for me. As much as I love living in smaller towns, but the thing that's great about LA is that you have the Sierras so close to you. They're like 4.5 hours till you're getting into Inyo, till you're getting into Kings Canyon or John Muir Wilderness. It's all right there, and it's beautiful. And it's only like another hour to get into Yosemite. So you get a lot of options to get outside because the outdoors. Being a musician, you're in studios all the time, and you're touring from city to city to city. So for me to have a base where I can be like 20 minutes from rock climbing changes it for me. And also, like, LA has such a rich and deep and always renewing source of talent that's coming through, and creatives who are thinking differently, and new people to meet so you can press yourself to be better. There's just such a pool of people here that there's no other place to be for me.
So is rock climbing your outdoor fix of choice?
Currently, yeah. When it's not winter, because when it's winter, then we go skiing. But it's actually great to climb out here in the winter too. But currently our weekend fix that me and my girlfriend have set up is literally going to the beach. She loves the beach, so we go to the beach on Saturdays and play volleyball with a great group of people, and then we go climbing. But we have to wait at the climbing wall that we climb out at Texas Canyon. You have to wait till the sun gets enough on the other side that you can climb where there's shade. But yeah, those are my current weekend hangs.
Right on. Have you spent any time or been to Angela's National Forest at all?
Like Padres, I think that I have, but I don't know any specifics up there. Like literally when I first moved to Los Angeles, and I did the same thing when I was on the East Coast. I lived in Boston for a bit. I would just look for green on the map. That was like my way of finding things, and just drive to it. And it's so fun. There's so many places in LA where it's green and it's just houses, and you're like, why? But there are places within like 45 minutes where you can get out and explore. But I'm not sure if I've specifically been to Angeles.
Okay, cool.
Have you?
I'm an ultra marathoner, and so there's Angela's Crest 100 is one of the kind of like the granddaddies of them all. It's a fairly well known one, and one of the older ones. So I know of it, and I've been through that area, but I've never really spent much time or done much trail running there.
Dude, that's so sick. For ultra marathon, what qualifies that? Does that start at like 50K? What does it start at 50K?
Yeah, I mean anything over a marathon, but you typically that's usually 50K. I mean there are some like up in the Marin Headlands. There's the Quad Dipsy, which is like 28.5 miles. But typically it's like 50K up to 100 miles, and then you get into the crazy timed events where you do 24, 48, 72, 6 days kind of events.
Yeah, yeah. Long term, is that something you want to do?
The 24-hour timed event is something that I've done two timed events, and it's mentally for me it's been more of a challenge than say a 100-mile race. So I would like to do and I used to really enjoy running track and field in high school and college. So I would like to do a 24-hour race, but I don't think I have any like a timed event like that. Maybe like a stage race over multiple days in the woods. But in terms of just kind of like running in the circle for 48 hours or 72 hours, that doesn't really intrigue me all that much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so sick. My MD and guitar player does triathlon, so that's the reason why I know
Right on.
why I know some of this.
Cool.
Yeah, he tries to convince me to do it, and I'm like, I'm good for the time being. I'll save all my energy for backpacking, and running later.
Wait for the bears to run.
Exactly. That's when I'll fight or flight.
So talking about being outside growing up in Montana, so you obviously love the outdoors, and I see a lot of your performances, or maybe you just going off to jam in the woods, or being outside. Do you like performing music outside, and do you do that a lot? Do you just set up outside with an amp and just get going?
Yeah, it's my dream to be performing at amphitheaters such as like the Greek or Hollywood Bowl or obviously Red Rocks, PNC on the East Coast. Those are like my dream performance centers of the tours that I'll be doing in the future. And performing outside, it's funny that you mentioned that because literally 2 weeks ago we went up to Bishop with a buddy of mine who we shoot outdoor content together where basically like and we're basically I'm just singing outside and the most recent rendition of that is I actually do plug into an amp with my voice and with the track coming out of the amp so he can hear it and it actually feels like a performance and it is so fun to get into these remote places where music like that would not usually be and perform and we keep an eye out for people because I don't really want to be ruining their piece. I'm totally someone who's like don't bring music into the outdoors. It's my break and relaxation from that. There's certain times, obviously, but yeah, that's exactly what I do. I go out and do that often. We did that. There's a thing online called the California Sessions, of which we did that with acoustics, and we were out in 5 different national parks in California, and I took each song from my EP and performed them in various parks, all the way from Red Rock Canyon in California up to the Redwoods. So it was a really fun trip. But getting outside is one of the most important things to me, and especially bringing my music there because I want to bring people to the outdoors via my music and also bring people to my music via the outdoors.
With that said, do you write music outdoors too, or do you prefer to be in the studio where you can mix the beats and stuff like that?
In the studio for sure, majority of the time. When I'm outside, I tend to they're my two passions and they're the two things that bring my soul peace and they do it in different ways. One's through expression, the other one's through more like absorption. So when I'm outside, I'm really taking it in more than putting out.
I want to get into the creative process, but what what is or what was your musical journey like? I mean, was it something that was always fostered growing up in Montana, or was it something maybe in high school that you found or came to? What was that process like for you?
It started when I was a little kid. My parents, I was just talking about this earlier. My parents, my mom specifically, I think had read somewhere that music was good for children's brains in growth and development. So she just started me music when I was a little kid, and I just caught on quickly and grew a desire to be doing it as often as I could quickly, whether that was in choir or piano concerts. I picked up and learned to play guitar mostly on my own. It was just something that always, I don't know, called to me, and it was always where I felt the most comfortable. It was always where I felt like I could express myself the most sincerely. When I went through my first breakup, I just sat with my guitar for months writing songs, and I didn't even know it was writing songs. I just thought I was lamenting and kind of coming up with these ideas. But it's always just been a safe place for me, and a place where I get to be free, be most authentically me, be confident, and enjoy the therapy that it brings me on the other spectrum as well.
You learned how to read music? Because I know that I have some friends that like just learned how to play by listening and can play piano, can play guitar. Sounding from your upbringing that you were kind of classically trained, I guess they would call it.
Absolutely, yeah. I did like a year and a half in school. That was all classical singing. I haven't read music in so long. Just go home and I have like my basic books there from when I was a kid that my parents still keep around. I can still play on it, but yeah, learned all of it. Went to music school, and yeah, did all the formal training in music. Though I don't think that it's necessary to be a great musician, but I do think that it was necessary for me. I like the fact that I have a lot of that training in me.
Cool.
Yeah, I would think having the core skills and anything that are kind of classic, right? In any kind of sport, you want to do the fundamentals. So I would assume it'd be the same in music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So growing up in music, your mom put you in music because she thought it would be good for your development. What was the journey like of bands in high school or writing music? And at what point did it go from this is something I like to do to, oh, wow, I don't have to work because I'm a musician now? Like how'd that work?
Oh, the journey continues. I think that the switch that really hit it for me is I was going to school for. I knew that I wanted to do music. I just didn't know in what capacity, and I ended up getting a scholarship to do opera at my state school. So I went and did that for a year, And in that year, I remember for a minute, I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to do music. And then, because I just wasn't connecting with anything, but I was good at it, but I just wasn't connecting and feeling it. And then I met a buddy who was just drumming on a box one day at my house. And he's like, yeah, I play drums. And we started making a band together. And it was the first time I'd ever really approached music as a leader of a band. And I think somewhere in those 2 years, I was when it changed from I like music and I really love doing it to this is what I'm going to really pursue. And that was when I went and started looking for places where I could find more people who were like-minded, which is why I looked for another college to go to and found a songwriting program so I could actually first I went and did a week with Berkeley, this school, and then after doing that week I was like, this is definitely what I want to do. These are all people that speak the same language I do. They're all writing songs. They're all trying to figure this thing out that they have inside of them. And then went off to school there and surrounded myself with people who all just had the same spirit and same attitude that they were going to do music. They were going to do it successfully. They were going to figure it out. And we were all passionate about just learning together.
So when you're in music school, what is that like? Is it a lot of, hey, just go play whatever you want to play if it sounds good? Or is there a lot of like, you got to learn this classical stuff and get it down? What was that process like going to music school?
There's a ton of formal. They want to teach you the basics. If you go to music school, you're going to learn about like Gregorian chant, which is like the first music that really ever was. And of course it was started in religion. But you start there and you kind of move your way through and you do get a lot of that formal training. I think a lot of it's interesting. I think a lot of it's not needed. But you're all going through it together. It's just like any college. If you're going to go learn, you want to be a rocket scientist, you're still going to have to take your English and poetry classes, and history classes. So it was I think it's the same college experience as anything else you're passionate about. You just want to get out and do it. And they kind of have you on these tier systems, but you don't realize in those tier systems that they are giving you skills, whether you're going to use them or not in the future. You are getting skills and insights to other sides of music you can be doing, from arranging to an engineer to a producer to doing film scores. There's all these different things that you're exposed to in what you can do within the field of music. And I chose to do songwriting while I was at school, so I could spend all my spare time and homework just writing songs.
And I know you said a big part of that being so special was the like-minded people you got to go there with and meet and collaborate with. Being a professional musician now, when you look back on it, besides that community, what are the other things that you look back on and go, oh, well, that's helping me right now? Or was it the community?
I'd say being surrounded by people that were better than me was a huge thing that I still look back on and go, thank God, because I go listen to things of me singing way back when everyone was like, you're so good, but I was in Montana, so it was a really small pond that I was dealing with, and I listened to that and they're like, oh, you're so good, and I was like, no, I was not. Thank God I went out and actually met some really phenomenal singers who I was able to put myself in a competition against. Obviously it was friendly and it was just for the sake of wanting to be better. And it was never stated, hey, I'm trying to be better than you, but it really put you in a place with people who were, beyond talented, hardworking. And the other thing that I look back on for sure mostly is the community. But I think as far as schooling, most of it, you sit there and go, should I have gone to school? I don't know. Who knows? Was it helpful? I don't know. Do I have a degree? No. Will anyone ever ask me if I have a degree? No. But the people that I met there, I'm still friends with to this day. A guy that I met in one of my classes, literally one of my best friends. We live down the block from each other. He's a producer and an engineer. Great. He just came over here and helped me figure out something with my outboard gear. And you hang on to all those people that you meet because you all have the same passion.
You know what Ted Nugent said about college, right?
Lay it on me.
I didn't go. I was too busy learning stuff.
It's true. It's true. Because most of the things that I learned, there were some songwriting things that I learned, but most of the things that I learned were literally from other people. I'd just go to their house and say, hey, how are you producing this? Hey, how do you do this? Hey, how do you do that? It wasn't in classes. I would go to classes for production. They'd be like, how do you know X, Y, and Z? I'm like, YouTube. Like, that's it.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because I'm in film school right now, and I definitely see the benefit to being in class and stuff. But the majority of stuff I learn is when I have to do something and I go on YouTube and watch a tutorial. Like that's the majority of like how I'm learning right now.
Yeah, it's because you're problem solving what you're interested in, and that's the thing. And when there's a curriculum, it's not necessarily it's a 50 it's or it's a very small chance that you're going to be interested in the particular curriculum that they're teaching. There's going to be some people who are in love with the class and other people who hate it. But I think that the reason why YouTube is so helpful is because you're able to, exactly what you're saying, explore the things that you're interested in and the problems that you need to solve. I was talking to some kids who were in high school, like juniors and seniors in high school this year with the pandemic, and I asked them, I was like, how was going to high school, especially your last years, at over Zoom? And they were literally like, dude, I learned more this year about the real world than anything else. One of them learned how to stock trade, the other one started a successful YouTube channel, and like they're actually leaving high school making money.
Yeah, it's a different world than when I grew up. And I know when Rich grew up, you got kids on YouTube or on Instagram that are making more money than their parents.
Yeah, dude, it's insanity.
Yeah, there's one kid in Carlsbad who's an artist, and he does like he paints Nikes and Vans and iPhones and all kinds of crazy stuff. But he's got a few million followers, and there was one video he posted not too long ago where he bought his parents a new house. I was like, that's crazy.
It is so funny. Probably the same parents that when he's a kid were like, "Hey, get off your phone."
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Still to this day, it's rightfully so.
So talking about the creative process,
Mhm.
you just said we took you away from some of you're writing a song right now. What is the creative process like? When we saw you at Outdoor Retailer, you were solo. Is it typically a solo endeavor? Do you bring musicians into create music with you as well? How does that all work?
It's always different. So on the creative side, I'm usually working with a producer and myself. We co-produce everything. I'm usually getting my hands in there in some way just because I'm picky and I want to throw paint. I'm big into going, I don't know what I want until I hear it. So I just like going and I'm big into throwing paint. And that's my way to do it, is by being able to go on through my YouTube, learn skills and throw ideas into Pro Tools. So on the creative end, you're always it's separate from the performance end. The performance end, I usually do have a band, but I have a setup where, as you guys saw, I have a setup where I can play by myself, or I can play with just a drummer, or I can play with my full band. So I have different setups for different things. So if a tour pops up or a show pops up where it's better for me to go hit it solo, especially if I don't know what I'm getting into or what the setup's going to be, I'm like, I'll just go do it solo and figure it out as I'm there. And then when you're going on tours, I love it. You always love collaborating people more so than being by yourself, for me.
And you got someone to drive when you get tired?
Yeah. I'll just hire a driver. I hope that's the goal. Or I'll just hop on. That's the other reason why I actually have it set up so I'm by myself, is so if the tour is going out, I can be like, hey, do you guys have one seat on your tour bus? I'll rent it out and just bring me on your tour.
So talking about sometimes performing with the band, not with the band, obviously your name is Ethan, but you perform under Alt Bloom. So where does Ethan end and Alt Bloom begin, and what do you consider Alt Bloom? Is that you in the band? How's that work?
Alt Bloom is just a label for a project, and it always has different people coming in and out, whether that's producers, whether it's different people in the band. But the reason why I named my project Alt Bloom was because I'd done so many things. I was in a band previously that had been touring for 3 years, and before that I'd done Idol, I'd done X Factor, and I'd done Berkeley, and I had all these things where if you type my name in music online, just like an endless supply of things come up. Some things that I love, most things that I hate. That when I started something new, I really wanted it to be exactly that, something new and something fresh, where when you typed in Alt Bloom, that was the only thing you found. And I just it was my first new step forward, going, I'm going to do what I want to do. This is my project. I'm going to pick the people that I want to collaborate on it. I'm going to pick the people that I want to play in the band. I'm going to pick the teams that are working on it. And I remember when I first started the project, the label that I'm on asked me, what do you want? And I said, I want to work with good people on good music who hopefully like the outdoors. And that was just like my baseline. And that's where I've been creating that reality for the last year and a half.
And in talking about creating your reality, the last 18 to 19 months have been pretty wild for everyone. But, one thing is we've talked to a lot of different high performers in different areas, and they talk about how the gratitude of the pivot and the things that they've been able to do, or the shifts that they've had to make, and then the improvements that they've gotten from in their careers through doing that. And I've seen some bands that have did live web shows, or MXPX did a Friday night for a while. They did like a fireside kind of thing.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you? Did it cause you to be a little bit more creative, or pivot a little bit and do things like that?
Yeah, definitely. I've always said that I'm not a social media dude. I'm a live performer, and that's where I always have earned. I always am about earning fans. And through the last year, the thing that was cool that happened is that I started doing Instagram lives, and through that, I ended up finding this group of about 20 core fans that we all call each other the tribe, is what we've dubbed each other. And now I go live on every Tuesday, and we always meet up, and everyone knows each other, and they have this positive interaction with each other via my music, which is rad. But more so than that, it's just cool seeing this group of strangers who didn't know each other, who have never met in person, be able to have this weekly pilgrimage to all hang out together. And we had inside jokes together. It's just like this whole friend group of people that we've never seen each other, we've never met each other. And we get to hang out on Instagram, which is a cool, the coolest thing that I could think that I would discover during a year where literally when the year started, I was supposed to be, when 2020 started, I just started touring, and 2 days into my tour in March, it got shut down, and that was when I was touring my EP. So it was a real big buzzkill. But on the light side, being able to find a crew of people who will hang out with me every Tuesday, no matter what, at 7 o'clock, has been very fun. And you definitely figure out new ways to be creative. I mean, for the first time, I actually tried, and I'm trying to figure out social media begrudgingly most of the time, but I'm trying to figure it out and be like, okay, this is like a whole world that you can tap into in various ways. And it's been interesting kind of reflecting into it more, and also addictive, which is why I erase my apps 24/7 now.
You both.
Yeah, dude. It's a whole whirlpool that, I mean, the next generation they're gonna have to deal with all the mental problems that strive out of it. But been figuring it out inch by inch. But I think the most beautiful thing that came out of it was definitely a chance to step back. I was with my family for 6 months, and I don't get it since I was 18. I didn't spend more than 2 weeks at a time with them, because I just come home for 2 weeks, and we're very tight. So to be home with my mom and dad for 6 months was rad, and also to develop that online community was very fun.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty amazing. I know for us, anytime someone tells us that they like an episode, or someone I don't know reaches out and, hey, that was a good one, it's just like, people listen. So I must think that must be awesome for you to have a group of people that you've never met to come hang out every Tuesday and enjoy your music.
Yeah, and they're all so loving. If anyone ever pops on and says something ridiculous, it's all just love, and that's just like what we try to cultivate. That's the whole point. So it's been really amazing to connect with all those people.
Connecting with those people, now that things are sort of going back a little bit, where there's live performances and stuff like that, and obviously we saw you here in Denver. Have you been able to get back out on the road and schedule some shows and do some performances, get a little traveling going?
Yeah, not as much as I'd have liked to so far, but we have some shows coming through in the end of the year, and I just got a new agent, so we've been waiting. We've been bouncing back and forth and figuring out what the best team is going to be, and we found a great one. But for the most part, I've just been in the studio, grinding it out on that edge, and really trying to figure out what my 2022 music is going to look like, which has been fun. It's been the most amount of time that I've been able to sit and reflect on what I'm doing, without the external validation of a crowd, because that's what I'm used to having. As I write a song and then I go play it out, and I'm able to kind of bounce it. But now it's just like basically me, the walls, and 4 people that listen to it. So it's been a new way that I'm excited when it's going to be over, but have definitely learned while I've been in it.
And the songs that you put out this summer, were those written recently, or were those stuff that you were sitting on?
A mix, like Fly Away. I put out two alternative records because through the reflection of this year, I was like, let's try some other things. I was super going like this lo-fi pop direction, and we wanted to try some more alternative leaning records. So Fly Away was a song that I had written actually in my house when I was locked up for quarantine, and then Old Kick Drum was a song that I'd written 7 years ago, and then all the other songs that I put out have all been written this year or within the last. Tired was written at the end of 2020, but most of them are all written this year. I'm a very addicted to writing. It's like my drug. So I'm always getting new things. And there's some days where I have to be like, all right, I need to like actually work today and not write like a handful of songs because I'm always just trying to find the next high, if you will.
Dude, Old Kick Drum is a freaking anthem, dude. It gets me motivated, gets me like ready to bounce. And I was walking to school listening to it today, just getting super amped and high. Sometimes that is the vibe, dog. I love that song. And I was so stoked. I believe it came out either last Friday or 2 Fridays ago, because I remember you played that at an outdoor retailer, but kind of forgot about it. And then when I heard it, I was like, that's the song. That's the song.
Yeah. I love that record, man, and it's been like leaning slowly into those more soul leaning vibes. So it's been I'm stoked that it's out because that was a record that I wrote and we replaced another record really quickly that I was unsure about. So I'm stoked that you love both of those, man. One's a brand new baby, and the other one I've had for 7 years. So it's good that you dig both sides.
Yeah, it's awesome when you have something sitting in the can, and then when it finally comes out, you're like, oh man, it's hitting with people. Question I have for you, because this has kind of been a wormhole I've been diving into recently. We're heavy on conspiracies. We've been going down some crazy rabbit holes to kind of keep sane during what's going on. And I've
Yeah.
been getting into a lot of binaural beats, different hertz and frequencies.
Mhm.
Do you pay attention to what hertz you're recording in and writing in? Is that a thing that you concern yourself about, or only crazy people like me worry about that stuff?
No, I don't think it's crazy. I think the hertz, different hertz, because I haven't studied it. You've studied it, and I know, and I've seen the things where you play certain hertz and it makes certain patterns when you have like sand on speakers, all those sort of things, and that's where they tap into things. But I think for me, I've had so many beautiful experiences to music that is in 440 or 441, that it's to me, I'm not sure. How much the resonation to me, it kind of feels like if you put meaning to something, it gives you meaning. And if you're saying this is going to bring me peace and I'm going to sign meaning of peace to this that it gives me, that's exactly what you're going to get, which is a beautiful thing. Your belief is the most important thing that you probably have as a human being, because it's going to be the thing that paints your whole reality. So I think that that's with hertz and music like that, because I've done the listenings where it's like I'll play this soft tone and vibrate back and forth, and then I've done sound baths where they're not really specific hertz, it's just tuned to specific notes, and I've gotten peace out of all of them. And I know that there's like the conspiracy theory with frequencies is that like they play it it's at a frequency that's like supposed to be specifically jarring to your spirit or something like that, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I believe it's 432 is the magic one, and I think everything in mainstream pop culture is
440.
440. Yeah.
Yeah. 440 is it was what they used to tune orchestras to, so we just keep it going.
Yeah, and to your point, I definitely, there's definitely songs that I listen to that aren't 432, but to your point, it makes me feel good, right there. Like I know Mac Miller isn't synced to 432, but I listen to Mac Miller all day and smile and feel like a kid. So
Bro, I was literally just listening to Swimming is one of my favorite albums of all time. People are like, who are your biggest influences? I'm like Tom Petty and Mac Miller. I was listening to Swimming literally just like 2 days ago, just because I wanted to relax and reset myself. It's an album I always come back to reset myself, and totally on that point of that music can bring me such heavy reflection and positive emotion that that's just as long as whatever it's delivering to me is giving me that feeling. I think that it's positive, and as far as the different hertz go, I haven't studied enough to have a strong opinion.
yeah, I was just super curious if artists pay attention to that. Like, oh, I'm just going to manipulate them to make them feel happy and they're going to love my music. I was just curious if people pay attention to stuff like that. So thanks for that answer. And to your point with Swimming, that's one of my favorite albums as well. But the thing that I have a heavy heart about is when it first came out and Mac was still alive for those first 2 weeks, I was kind of into it. I really didn't I was kind of like, I wouldn't say I was over Mac Miller, but how he was living and stuff, I was, and then he passed, and then it became like my favorite album of all time. And it hurts me that I didn't realize that when he was still alive.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to be said about the magic of when someone passes away. I mean, like Nirvana or Jimi Hendrix, you know, if they were still alive, would their music be treasured as much as it is? You don't know. You don't know if that adds to the magic. You know, same as Dark Knight and Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger passing away makes that movie so much more impactful. Especially because seemed like it was directly related. And I'm totally with you. I didn't fall in love with Mac Miller. My manager was always like, listen to Mac Miller, listen to Mac Miller. And I was like, yeah, he's okay. And then I literally listened to his NPR.
The Tiny Desk.
That was it. That was it for me, bro. I literally saw it came across my feed for 15 seconds, and I literally was like, what the fuck? And I go and listen to it, and the musicians that this man had pulled together, and how his delivery and his swag and his like confidence that was also still shy, like it kind of had both these worlds, was so beautiful that I literally watched on my phone, watched the whole thing. Then I got my headphones, watched the whole thing again, and then I went into my studio and turned my speakers on, watched the whole thing, and I was just like, wow. And that was when for the next 6 months, I just listened to Swimming, and some of the things off Divine Feminine, and just soaked it up.
I like your thoughts on the Hertz too. Just like whatever your intention is, what you're intending to get out of the music is what you're going to get from it. So even if it is at 440 or 441, but it brings you positivity and stuff. I like that perspective too, because like Jimmy said, we can go deep down into the rabbit hole sometimes, and all you see is this little black dot when you're looking up from it. You're like, I got to get out of here. I need to go walk and hug a tree or something.
Yeah. I totally feel it. There's days where me and my girl get on such rabbit holes of conspiracies that it's very fun to think that we've been eternally screwed our whole lives in some fashion.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into this because we have some rapid fires, and that's one of the questions. But
let's go, baby.
This year has taken me, because I wouldn't say I'm a flat earther, but we've talked to them where I'm not married to the ball at this point, right? We're prior to 2020.
married to the ball, baby.
Prior to 2020, if someone asked about flat Earth, I'd be like, get out of here. But now at this point, like I'm super into time travel and lost history and stuff like that, where kids at school, when I start talking, they just walk away. They're like, this crazy old man, I got to get away from you.
Yeah. I think a lot of those things, I think what happens with a lot of things, whether it's true or whether it's conspiracy or whether it's a mix of both, is like when you find that ounce of truth that you're like, oh, you can spread it so far. You're like, there's one thing right there that I know for sure, and I can apply it to these other things.
I told you.
Oh yeah.
When you are writing, is it does the music and the lyrics, do they go hand in hand? Does one come before the other? What does that process look like? Or is it different for every song?
It's different for every song. I think that melody always comes first for me, for sure. And sometimes the lyric comes immediately. But I'm the type of writer, the reason why I write so much music, and what's so funny, bring it back to my therapist. This morning I was talking to her, because I always write, I end up saying that I write like 3 or 4 songs. If I'm doing a true writing day for me, it's like 3 or 4 songs. And I just figured out why that is, I think, is because there's one thing that I knew for a bit, that I was always trying to get myself into an unconscious state. And because I think that the best songs are always written when you let them through, and it's really you're enabling them to come through, because your judgment's out on the floor, and you have some. It's like if you've read anything about like the Zen and archery, the type of thing where you get that motion a couple times, and by the time the 4th song comes around, I'm able to get the motion that I really want out of what I'm trying to write. And another reason why I think I do that I literally discovered today is that it's taking me, because I was comparing it to, when I go on a trip or when I go outside, it always takes me a couple hours before I'm really present and really not in my thoughts. And I think that's the same thing that is with music, that it just takes me personally a couple songs till I'm actually present with what I'm doing, and actually in a point where whatever's going to hand me that lyric or whatever I'm going to find is actually speaking to me, speaking to beliefs.
And so you'll write every day?
Not every day. I have too much to do.
Okay.
But if I had the opportunity to, I would. Like today, today it was like the things that I'm working on right now are there's live performances that the drum leak was, this is like the stuff that I do on a daily basis. The drum leak was too strong in the vocal mic on what we did. So they needed me to recut the vocals for these live takes that we're doing. So I was recutting those, editing the backgrounds to make sure that the levels are right, and reprinting the tracks that were playing in the background. And also making sure that I actually replace my tires because the threads are showing and I haven't done it for weeks.
Been there, dog.
But yeah, as an artist, there's so much I'm discovering too, that especially now that the wheels are turning back on, there's so much more than just writing songs. There's interviews. I had 3 today. There's so much navigating your team, navigating social media is now this whole other thing where it's like, first I had to write the songs and have the creative vision and get them finished, and then it's like you just plop social media on top of that. Is like, this is just as important. In fact, you could write completely garbage songs, and if you did this right, we don't care. We'll open up the doors for you. Always balancing and juggling different balls. If I could be writing every day, that's exactly what I would be doing. And I feel like what I try to do now is do it in streaks. So I'll do like 3 to 4 days a week I'll be writing and try to keep my writing brain active and in that motion. And then for the other days of the week, I'm producing, editing, and all the above, the other things you need to do as an artist.
Okay. What are your social media vices? Which ones are you investing your time in terms of for your brand?
I mean,
other than Instagram.
I mean, as far as addiction, anything that your thumb can slide on, for the most part. I see little kids doing this, like my sister's, my nephew will literally sit here and do this with random objects. And I'm like, oh my God, we're programmed. But TikTok and Instagram are the two that I focus on as an artist the most. And yeah, they're the ones that I spend the most time on as well as a consumer.
Okay, cool.
You got any other ones?
Nah.
Reddit I also spend time on.
That's what people recommend all the time to us for podcasting. And then some of the guests we've had on, like I had an entrepreneur on, a young kid who makes hiking packs for like the Pacific Crest Trail and stuff like that. And he basically learned how to build his own packs and build his brand from, hiking through hiking forums on Reddit.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place. If you just type in space and scroll down the forums, it's really rad. You can find some great. Speaking of lost history,
this is fake.
Fun stuff in there.
Speaking of your writing process and being pretty specific and knowing that 4 song is the one that's going to vibe and jam, and that's going to be the one, do you have any funny stories, maybe in the shower and got to go write something down, or in the middle of the night you wake up and you got to go write something down or start playing something?
I mean, I'd say that's pretty much every day. Since I've married myself to being a songwriter and being an artist, it's more like I just more wait to have my studio time to go down it, because it's almost like a meditation. You're figuring out how to unlock those doors when you want to versus when they open for you. But there's been plenty of times where I wake up and for instance, I was telling my girlfriend the other day, I was having a dream that I was with Tom Petty writing a song, and I was like, oh my God, this song's so amazing. And when I woke up, I was like, oh my God, I wrote that song. Like that had nothing to do with that. And of course I'm like laying there in bed, classic thing of being like, oh, I need to like do that voice. No, I'm not going to forget this shit. I'm not going to forget it. And definitely forgot it. And then waking up and going like, oh man, that song was so sick at the time. But there's often times that I wake up and first thing I'll do in the morning is grab my guitar, still in my boxers, and try to come up with ideas. Cause I think you're really close to that unconscious state that you've just come out of. So sometimes early mornings can be a great time to tap in. But I would like to share just a fun studio story of a song that I have called Potential, where me and my buddy who had been sitting there writing it, working on it, and we went in to cut the vocal. And as I was cutting it, I was like, man, this is trash. This is just bad. And I just said, you know what, let's just stack a ton of harmonies and call it for the day. Let's just have fun. So we stacked a bunch of harmonies. And as I was listening back to the harmonies when I was still in the booth, I said, yo, can you mute everything but the bass real fast? And he muted it. And it was like I just ran out of the booth screaming and hugged him. I was like, "We did it, bro! It like worked out," because it was like like a third song in the day, and it was just like one of those magical, fun moments where you're like, "Dude, let's just throw everything at it because this is a total failure," and then randomly muted 90% of what we did, and it just worked.
What song was that?
That was Potential.
All right.
So that's why in the chorus, if you ever listen to it, the chorus, everything drops out and it's just stacks of vocals and a bass.
Good to know the backstory. And
Yeah.
you had mentioned that you had married yourself to your music. Was that a specific time, place, kind of put some intent into things, or is that just kind of your mindset?
I think it's just my mindset. When I left Montana and went to music school, I made a promise to myself that I would never make money again, not in music. And I think that was when I really married to it. And there was times where when I was moved to Los Angeles, there was times where I had no money in my bank account. I had paid rent. I knew I wasn't going to get paid for something for like another 2 weeks, and I had a full tank of gas. And I was like, all right, I can make it to my sessions. I need to like be a little careful and I'll figure it out. And I always ended up, I think when I adapted that mentality, there were so many times where I was like, I'm screwed. There's nothing to do. And something would catch me. There was literally one time where I remember I went on a trip. And when I came back, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And you probably should have not gone on the trip and figure out how to pay rent. But came back from the trip, and when I came back, literally there was a check sitting there for something that I had done 2 years ago, and it was the biggest check I'd ever received at the time. And I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." So I just kept that mentality of going, I'm going to make it in music, and whether that was doing jingle productions, of which I was a very loose producer when I came to LA, but I just figured it out because it's like I need to figure out how to make money. Whether it's doing jingle productions or doing EDM vocals for someone, or just doing demo work for someone, I was able to figure out a way to string it along and pay the bills till I was actually making a living.
Awesome. Any EDM vocals that I may know or may have?
Are you a fan of that? Are you big in the EDM world?
I dabble.
He's an OG.
Got you. There's a guy, Marcus Schultz, who I did a handful of songs with. There's a Marcus Scholes and a Marcus Schultz, and I did it with Schultz.
Okay.
And I have several songs out of them, and I think I think if you search my name, Ethan Thompson, you can find some of them. And there's some like super old ones that are just terrible. And I would do them for anyone, but I get paid like $150 to do like a vocal, so it was pretty fun.
Excellent. I will check those out when we get off of here. Any jingles that we might be familiar with?
There was two of them that I did. One was for a store called the jingles, lots of the ones I did in Los Angeles were sound beds. So I basically would just make sound beds. They'd say make things in this genre, and I would sell it to a company that then would sell it to jingles. I never knew what would happen with them. I would just make my money up front and say, do whatever you want. They could have made millions. I have no idea. But I did do in 2008, I did a Folgers jingle contest and won it, and and I just like rewrote with the same tagline, the best part of waking up, but rewrote the rest of it. And I actually ended up filming a whole commercial. That was the first time when I was leaving Montana, when I was in Montana, that I was like, oh, I could actually do this for like seriousness instead of like doing it for a hobby or for fun. But yeah, I did the Folgers jingle one. And then there's another one that was called Dream Sleep, your mattress store. That was a Northwest mattress brand.
Right on.
Yeah.
Do you have free Folgers for life?
What's funny is I didn't even drink coffee at the time, so I didn't even have. I drink coffee now, and no offense, but it would not be Folgers.
No, yeah, we're right there with you.
Yeah.
No, but I would think winning a Folgers contest, even though like jingles aren't what you shoot for, what you go to music school for, but everyone grew up on that song. So I mean that must have been pretty cool. Like, yo, I just wrote the Folgers jingle and I got to use the old tagline.
Yeah, it was really rad, and it was a huge, like for me at the time, it was like a huge check, and my whole band, we were all because we were in the commercial and we did all these things, and I used all that money and just pumped it into college for better or worse. But it was a magical experience. I got to go to LA for the first time and see what a commercial shoot looked like, and the amount of money they pump into these shoots, they're insane. But it was overall an experience that really taught me that I could do anything, honestly, even though it was just a jingle. It was a huge experience for me at 18 years old.
Is that floating around on YouTube somewhere?
Yes.
Nice.
Alt bloom.
We'll put that in the show notes.
What's funny is I don't know if you can find the actual commercial, but I think that the let's see, Ethan Thompson Folgers. It'll definitely the yeah, the one that I did, the initial one that I did that was for the competition, that just like got you into the competition is still up there, and man, it is so bad. So bad. Or I guess it's just 2014. There's no way that was 2014, but maybe.
Giving us some homework to dive into after the show.
Oh, definitely a reason why I changed my name, but I have no problem if people find me via Alt Bloom and then find it, it's all good.
So speaking of, the Alt Bloom and Ethan Thomas, I think you mentioned a couple reality shows. I know you mentioned American Idol in there. What were those experiences like? And being, a musician that, you do it because you love it. Was that like soul crushing for you? Was it hard to go do that stuff and be like, oh, I'm a fucking American Idol, Paul Abdul's judging me right now?
Yeah, it would be now. I would say with those experiences, as a kid from Montana, I did not know any better. I didn't know anything. But by the time X Factor was one that I didn't get in, both of the shows I ended up at some point basically walking off and just being like, this is ridiculous. The X Factor one, they had us locked in a room for like a day and a half, basically doing nothing. And I finally was like, I need to go outside. Like, I can't be in this. I'm not from here. I don't know anyone, and I'm not used to sitting inside like this. And a producer like, let me go outside. And the American Idol one, I fared a lot better while I was doing it. And of course they cut 90% of it, but when I was doing the show, it was all going very well. So I was a lot more like in the American Idol, like mind, like hive mind almost. They definitely make you feel like it's the end of the world, and they put so much pressure on you, and you're like a cow to them. They don't let you sleep for ridiculous reasons of you need to wait. You need to be downstairs at 6:00 a.m. or we're kicking you out. And also you need to be rehearsing till we need to get a footage of you doing something at 3 a.m. So it was like always like they're trying to get you to get as less sleep as possible, give you, I'm probably not even supposed to say any of this, less sleep as possible, less water as possible. They wouldn't let you drink in the audition rooms. And the whole thing was just applied to make you feel as much pressure and be as underprepared and feel as most pressure as you possibly can, which is why they get people with such emotional reactions. And I remember the last day that I was there, God bless them, they wanted it to be a moment for me because everything had been going right in the show, but I like hadn't done anything on stage that was like a moment to them. And they're like, we need you to like make this a moment. And it was funny because I was totally brainwashed at this point in like the idol-ism. And I had like written out a thing that I was going to say to the judges, totally just on my own, of like thanking them and like, and through a couple things that had happened, just like, advice they'd give me, and just like wrote this whole thing out that I was literally going to read to them. And the second the producer came down and said, hey, what are you going to do to make this a moment? My like bullshit meter flipped on. And I was like, oh, it's a TV show. None of this is relevant to my existence, like literally at all. And I was like, I'm just going to go out and sing my song. And I never read the letter. I never did anything. And it was so funny because it was ironic because I was like, if he would not have come down and asked me, I would have made their moment. But they came down and it showed me that what was going on was so ridiculous. But it taught me a lot about the pressures that we put on each other. Because when I looked out, that last audition I did, when I looked out, I was like, these are three human beings who are sitting here acting like they're on high chairs, putting all these pressure on kids when they've been through this. They've been through this industry. They know how brutal it is. And they're applying even more pressure on just like people from Wisconsin who like know how to sing Amazing Grace, like putting all this pressure on them. It was the first time where I really like saw the entertainment industry for a money machine versus a passion machine, or at least the film industry.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you sharing those moments with us.
Yeah, I'll send you the papers when I get sued.
No one listens, don't worry. Did Randy Jackson ever call you dog?
Oh yeah, I can't remember if he was on this. No, he wasn't on the show when I was there.
Okay.
But I know him. I know him through another friend, and then that friend told me like when the transition of Randy Jackson going from like a normal human to like or just like your average dude to that next time he called me, he's like, yeah, bro, yeah, dog, blah, blah, whatever. And he's like, I literally like went from like a super just like straight down the middle guy to super like hopefully that's who he is, and he's just owning his own confidence, which is rad.
how do you go through that experience, see the kind of gimmick of them wanting you to create a moment and just not get completely, is your love for music that great that you'll go through the bullshit and maybe deal with some of the phoniness? Like
Oh
how
yeah.
did you not have that moment and just be like, fuck all this?
I think because I can't not do music. Like I can't not do it. I mean, social media is the exact same thing. It's the exact same three-ring circus shit show that you're supposed to climb your way up in order to do what you love. And I think that I think for a lot of people, in order to do what they love, there's things they have to go through. And to me, I've just put all the things that I have to go through is like, if I get to do this for the rest of my life, then it's worth it. And if I get to a position of power where I can help people through this, whether that's through knowledge or whether it's through actual physical help of going, hey, let me sign you to a deal that is not ridiculous, that's actually just here to help you, and figure out a way that you can give back to the community to help them navigate all the struggles that you went through and all the things that you see as BS. Because if you can become a part of the hierarchy, then you can actually change it.
And talking about the
Being changed.
hierarchy and being able to help people, and that's kind of how it works in your realm, is, you know, you want to help other people. What were some of the biggest influences on you music wise?
Tom Petty of the last like years, like I mean, as artists or as individuals.
Yeah, as art, like growing up, listening to stuff, or like people that really inspire you.
Yeah, like I mean, the Oasis has been super inspiring to me lately after watching the Supersonic documentary, and I know those are geared to make you feel something, and they definitely work. Uh, but Oasis, Tom Petty, Steve Miller, um, Stevie Wonder. Those were like, I would say like Steve Miller and Tom Petty were like huge bases of what I listened to growing up. As far as people who I thought were really musical, of course, I listened to like Eminem and 50 Cent, and Blink 182 and all those other all the bands of the late 90s, early 2000s. But I think as far as like musical influence and people who I look back to now and go, yo, where's the goldenrod for me and what brings me safety is definitely Tom Petty and Mac Miller and Steve Miller's work as well.
What's your favorite Steve Miller song?
I mean, I would just say the intro to the what is it? Intro to Space Jam. What is that?
Fly like an eagle.
Yeah. It's called Intro to something, but it's the intro that's actually my favorite because there's synths that are in there that are amazing. Let me pull it up real fast. I remember one time when I was at Berkeley, someone asked me, "What's your favorite album?" And I only had the Steve Miller Greatest Hits that was 2 parts. And that's all that I have. Oh, I also love Rockin' Me. My grandpa, he's that one. Keep on rocking me, baby.
And they always talk about, obviously that Steve Miller was a different time, but Steve Miller is one of those guys who you could probably put in, for most people, you put them in a lineup, and most people probably wouldn't be able to pull him out of a lineup, as opposed to say like a Tom Petty or some of the other artists. He kind of has so many bangers out there, but kind of flew under the radar of, because he used to play when I was growing up. We grew up not too far from the PNC Bank Art Center.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would come every summer, and it was like a pilgrimage or like a rite of passage as a high school kid or a middle school kid. It's like your parents let you go off to see Steve Miller, but
That's so
rad. So many of his songs, but I probably couldn't pick them out of a lineup if I had to.
No, I don't think so either. Dance, Dance, Dance was the song I was talking about. Because I love that they were bold enough to do something that was so different than what they were doing. And I just have always appreciated that when I'm listening to music. But I totally feel you. The thing that's cool about that is I feel like, I mean, he was someone that never really bought into a lot of things. I mean, he signed a deal that was, he signed a deal that he had all the rights to his music. Whatever A&Rs told him, he would tell him to go shove it. So the fact that he's been able to live a life that was so big and write such hit songs, but then also able to just like be a normal human being and live his life and just like retire for 20 years is like so rad. And I think the fact that you can't pick him up just shows that he's like a very, not that other people aren't true artists, but I like that about him, that he's unassuming, and even when you see him playing with his bands now, he's just t-shirt, pants, looks like he just came out of the shop working on wood and just does his thing.
Actually, one more question before we get to rapid fire.
Yeah.
Definitely want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate your time.
No sweat. I'm enjoying that.
What was the connection, and how did you get yourself tied into Outdoor Retailer? And piggybacking off of that, while you were here in Colorado, did you get to do any sort of outdoorsy things?
Yeah. So first parter, we I connected with them because my team, I'm always trying to say reach out to outdoor things, reach out to outdoor things. And what happened is the top of 2020, I actually they saw my music and saw the California session stuff that I had put up with me just playing my guitar out in these locations and shot by my buddy. He's a beautiful cinematographer. And through those videos and through my label reaching out, they're like, you know what, why don't you come out and play for our what is it called, summit, for the summit. And I was like, let's go. The year shut down, and so I ended up going and filming with that same buddy. We went and filmed a half-hour video that they could play on the Zoom for Outdoor Retailer for that year, because it was going to be the only thing that they could do. And actually, the Tired music video that I have up is taken from that thing that we shot, because it ended up being a really fun day that we were up there shooting. So through that, they aired that, and then the following year they asked me to come back. And it's so funny because as a musician, the things that you're getting asked to go to are usually like flashy, high fashion, or for like Nickelodeon, or for Apple, or for Beats, and they all kind of have this like certain swag to them that I've always like. I do my own thing. I always feel like it's not quite my swag. And when I walked into the Outdoor Retailer, I was like, Jesus, it's a large REI. This is can everything I go to just look like this? Like if I could go to like if I could go to like Apple Music's and they're like, yeah, dude, we got our Osprey backpacks in the back and our hiking boots in the front. If you want to grab a pair on the way out, I'd be like, dude, that's dope. That's like my goal as a musician too, is to be able to take kids, such as like I feel like a lot of artists they sell products through what they do, and they really sell into this pop lifestyle and this rich lifestyle, and this fashion lifestyle. And I just want to make kids think that like Gucci and Polo and et cetera, are literally just as cool as having like Osprey or Merrell or Chacos. Just be like, yo, this shit's like really dope. That other stuff you can't take into the woods. This stuff will actually last. It's rad. And then what was the other question?
Did you do any outdoor stuff while you're here?
Yes, I did. I actually through a dude that I met through that through the Tuesdays, Tribe Tuesdays. He saw that I was in Denver and sent me a message, and we went out to near the Red Rocks. I can't remember what the area was called. Can't remember what it was, like Rose something park, or it was something.
In Morrison?
Say it again.
Was it in Morrison?
No, it wasn't in Morrison. It was about like 40 minutes away from Denver.
Okay.
Wouldn't even know what direction, but it was like Red Rocks, and it was like a super easy hike that had like, there was like a visitor center there that had to my delight mammoth bones in there. But yeah, we went to there and just went and walked around and did like, it was like a 3-mile loop or something like that. And that was my chance to get out. That was my hangover day.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
And then to tie it all back, the first time, because one of my good friends from high school, he works for Outdoor Retailer, and so I've been fortunate enough to get invited to all of them since they moved back to Denver. And the first year that they were back in the winter, when they did the outdoor concert at Red Rocks, Mac Miller was actually supposed to perform at that concert, but I think that was right around when all that stuff went down, was it not, Jim?
Yeah, that was when he was getting ready to put swimming out, but he had canceled like that whole tour because he was having a bunch of issues and stuff. That was that January. You saw Back in the Mud, Bubba Sparks, right? That's who took his spot
that year.
I think so, right, Rich?
Yeah, Rick Ross was there, but it was a gentleman, hip hop guy from Minnesota was the guy that I saw.
Wasn't Atmosphere, was it?
Was it for Outdoor Retailer, or was it a show that happened to be going on?
I think it was a show that happened to be going on, but somehow Outdoor Retailer had like some sort of connection to it. I just remember I got on a bus and went to it, and it was winter time, and we were at Red Rocks, and people were walking around in snowsuits and stuff.
That's so sick. That's
a good time.
Dude, my kind of people. Go to a show in a full-blown snowsuit. Why not?
Right.
Why not?
Yeah, I never
But
experienced anything like that before.
Yeah, dude, that's the future goals. I was doing a performance on even at Big Bear up here, which is a smaller resort, but still such a blast to literally like see people be performing on a stage and just see people skiing by and be like, "Yo, what up?" and everyone just getting wasted at the bottom house. There was so rad.
yeah, and I really appreciate your mindset of, hey, we don't want these kids wearing Gucci and stuff. We want you wearing outdoor stuff and being
Yeah,
real and not wasting all your money. It's definitely our vibe. So thank you for that.
absolutely.
So I know you said back when you were getting paid by Folgers, you weren't drinking coffee, but I know you said you do now. So how do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
I always do black for the most part, and there's two forms that I do. One is I have an espresso machine, and I'll just do 2 shots, grind it 2 shots. But lately we were doing pour over, and then we went to the espresso, and now we've gone back to pour over. So my favorite is doing like I have just like a small. I actually take it backpacking with me, a small pour over that I just put like the small whatever number filter in, grind it up, put it over the top, do hot water, wait a little bit, let it breathe, and then do the rest of the hot water and just drink it black.
Right on. Have you ever heard of or seen an AeroPress?
I've heard of them, but I've never used one. Is that similar to a Chemex, or what's the difference?
It's funny because it's made by the company Aerobi that makes the frisbees.
Okay.
But it's like a plastic cylinder, and it's different than a pour over, but it's different than a French press because the extraction process, you're applying pressure as you push through the grinds. So I guess gives you a richer, fuller flavor, but it's really good for, they're short, small and compact, and they're really good for like camping and backpacking trips and stuff like that.
Oh, got you. So it's like a French press, but instead of it, you're pushing through the beans instead of it being stuck at the bottom. I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got you. That does look like it'd be super handy for camping because it doesn't need a filter, eh?
Yeah. Well,
You
it
could get
has
like
a metal disc
metal
or
disc that's
yeah.
like a reusable. I mean, you can get the paper ones, but obviously to try to be environmentally friendly, they have that's just like a silver disc that you put in that's perforated, and you reuse that one.
Got you. Like an espresso type lid.
Yeah.
That's dude. Put it on my shopping list.
And then I got one more for your shopping list too, is third wave water.
Third wave water. All
Third
right.
wave water. There's a former NASA scientist called Charles Nick, and he couldn't figure out why his home pour over never tasted as good as the coffee house that he went to. So he became friends with the coffee house and the roaster, and they were like, well, there's this certain pH water profile that the National or World Federation of Baristas has to apply or whatever.
Yeah.
And so what he figured out is he took that water from that coffee house and dehydrated it to get that pH profile. So now he sells that dehydrated water pH profile in like these little sachets, kind of like a electrolyte packet. You put that in a gallon of distilled water, and then you're getting that pH profile for your home brew.
This is so sick. I'm curious what the pH profile is because we have like a pH machine that can do like different. It's like not you can do like 9, 8.5, 8. I'm so curious what it is.
I think they have the information on their site. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's definitely out there.
Yeah, I'm scrolling now. I feel like I'm Joe Rogan right now, scrolling. I wanted to ask a question real fast. What was one of the dope, being that you've gone to outdoor retailers so much, what was one of the cooler things or like inventions or something that you saw there that stuck with you?
I'm like I mentioned earlier, I'm a trail runner, so I always geek out on the new innovative shoe technologies and stuff like that. And the one thing that I like, or I have seen the piece of technology, is the Boa Lacing Systems.
Got you, like the same ones for snowboarder boots?
Yeah, correct.
Got
So
you.
I've actually got a pair of those put into one of my trail shoes the first summer I was here in Colorado training for Leadville, and I really liked the way that it fit, and what like the snugness of how it fit on my foot, and not having to like mess with it or have it come loose like a pair of shoelaces would. And then just the packs, the lightweight, what the heck are they called? The running packs, or the
ones that are like
fast packs that are almost like a vest. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are always sick, dude. More power to you. Free Australia. I'm looking up the Boa shoes right now.
How about you? Do you see anything there that kind of blew your mind?
Well, we all bought back massagers. Because they had like these little portable ones, and literally we
Yeah, we
saw,
did.
dude, literally like I have this small version of that. Wait, what company is that? No,
Jakku.
dude, that's literally the one that we bought. I would get, I'll grab it for you. But literally, it was just a small version of that, so you can just like, so we can travel with it. That was a huge one I saw. I also was like on a desperate search for overalls while I was there. Literally every clothing store I went to, I was like, "Yo, where are your overalls? Where are your overalls?" And I found a company called Fly Low that they were kind enough. Dude, they were rad. They were kind enough to give me their 2022 pants because they didn't have any for sale and they didn't have any men's. They're like, "Oh, we don't have," and no one had men's out this year. And they're like, "Oh, it's all next year."
It's funny you say that because I often say lately, especially within the last 18 to 20 months, that I want to live a life where I can wear overalls and be barefoot 90% of the rest of my life. And we actually walked by that Fly Low booth and there was no one there because it was late in the afternoon. I think it was actually the last day before we went out and saw you perform. And there was the one pair. And I was like, man, I think I want these. And Jimmy was like, just take them. I'm like, I think they're women's though. But the same thing, I saw those. I was like, I want these.
Yeah, they had some women's there, but they did have some men's too. But I almost got the women's because there wasn't like a huge difference.
Yeah.
But the only thing that was different was the back was cut differently. It had like a hole in it versus no hole in it. So you could be more revealing. But literally, bro, I went back to the when I was wasted that night. I remember I went back to the hotel and literally I was like, I've never done this. Like after I did it, I was like, I've never done that ever. I literally like got all my clothes off and literally put the overalls on and just laid in bed. Just like so happy to have these overalls.
Respect.
Yeah, and I used to use them in a music video, so that's why they ended let me use them because I was like, we're filming a music video. I'm an artist on a major label. Like, just please let me have these pair of pants. And they're like, oh, fine, have them, take them.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Thanks, man. Just anything for overalls.
Heck yeah, I respect that. Ethan, is there anything you do on a daily basis or as a daily practice or daily ritual that helps you level up and show up as the strongest version of yourself every day?
I think there's working out for sure is the biggest thing that I'm able to do. But there's something that me and my girlfriend have been doing recently that's been actually really nice for the past like week and a half is we wake up and either before or right after the workout, we have a book that's called Ask and It Is Given. And it's a book by Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks. And dude, we just read a chapter from that every morning. It almost feels like I feel like I'm like my parents when they used to read me the Bible. We just like read this in the morning because it's just a really, regardless of what you believe of Esther Hicks, the positivity of the way that she goes about life and the lessons that they teach in these books of just positive ways to look at things and positive ways to imagine your future and positive ways to take your day and positive ways to take darkness. It really does set you off on like the right path and trying desperately to not be on social media or like read my own numbers in the morning as well. But I think that having that little ritual every morning of going, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to start my day has really been helpful because it's only like 5 to 15 minutes of reading, depending on the chapter.
Yeah, we get down with the law of attraction and Esther Hicks over here. Josh Homney was actually talking about it on Rogan a couple of years ago, and he was talking about her being a medium and someone talking through her, and I was like, I don't, it's always hard to dabble with that. Like, oh yeah, this person is channeling or whatever. But once I actually started listening to the podcast, it's just such a good positive charge. So we definitely get down with that. What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? You reading anything?
I've been throwing it back into like a lot of funk soul stuff. So I've been doing like Bill Withers. Also been listening to Remy Wolf, who's a new artist, obviously. I'm checking down to my things here. Oh, dude, been listening to Silk Sonic. Their 2 songs. Been listening to Anderson .Paak's last album. Dude, been listening to this song by the band called Atlantic City.
Dude, that Bruce Springsteen cover. Yo, I'll one up you. Hank 3, Atlantic City.
Hank, dude, I'm writing this down now. I've been obsessed with the mandolin that they have on there. Hank 3, Atlantic City. Oh, Hank Williams the third.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's I would say that band version of Atlantic City is probably my favorite. Like we said, we grew up in Jersey, and the state wrestling championships is in Atlantic City. And my junior year, after I qualified for states, my coach sat me down. He's like, "Do your parents have old like Bruce Springsteen albums?" I was like, "Yeah, we're from Jersey, like everyone does."
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, I need you to go home and you need to listen to Atlantic City to get ready to go down to states." So ever since that's like one of my favorite songs. I love that song.
Yeah, it was so funny because I was listening to it with my girl, and she was like, "Man, like singers used to be so bad back then." I was like, "What? This is incredible. This man's voice has so much feeling." So upset. So upset. But yeah, great song. It's been funny because I'm in LA, right? So when they're like, "Hey, so what songs have you been listening to?" And I play that song, people are like, "What the fuck?" Like, what? I feel like
Montana.
yeah, I always see people's reactions kind of be like, And I'm like, yeah, have you been listening to like Faces, Ooh La La, or listening to like Take It Easy, Eagles? Like, I've just been kind of diving into all this. Like, honestly, since the quarantine, been diving back into a lot of music that I listened to as a kid that I had forgotten about for a while. So it's been really fun to dive back into.
I got another cover for you because you just mentioned Ooh La La. Check
Yeah.
out Tim Timebomb. That's Tim Armstrong from Rancid. He's got an Ooh La La cover, which is the tits.
Tim Time Bomb, Ooh La La. There it is. Don't tell anyone. And the other one was Atlantic City by Hank Williams.
Hank 3. And that might be, I don't know if that is a hidden track or not. So if you don't find it,
I can't find it. I'm gonna have to. I'll have to find it on YouTube.
I'll send it to you when we get off here.
Okay, sick, perfect.
Cool.
You mentioned Remy Wolf was one. Who was the one after that you mentioned?
I'm not sure. Was it someone new?
Yes.
Oh, here, let me look real fast. I'm just going down the last playlist that I created for myself. I'm one of those. I went to a session the other day, and a guy was just rattling off all this information about this artist, that artist, all these things. I'm like, I do not retain information like that. Oh, been listening to Silk Sonic was the other one.
That's who it was.
Yeah. Listening to Silk Sonic, and obviously Still Woozy stuff is amazing. Been diving into that a bunch. But yeah, I'd say that's my highlight reel of right now.
Excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, Ethan.
Looks like you found it.
Last but certainly not least.
Let's go.
Before March of 2020, this used to have a much lighthearted, fun feel to it. Since then, it's taken a turn and gone sideways on us. But
you're committed.
If we are committed. But if you ever find yourself late night in a YouTube rabbit hole, do you have a favorite conspiracy theory? Growing up in Montana, have you ever had a Bigfoot encounter or seen UFOs?
No, I've never had a Bigfoot encounter and seen UFOs, but there was one time where I was so scared of the woods that when I'd walk inside, I'd always sprint inside my house. And there was one day where I was so tired of it that I screamed in the woods, "If you're out there, come get me." And then I was even more terrified and ran inside. I would say, I mean, the conspiracy is really anything I can get my hands on, but the ones that I dive into and definitely like is the ties between Egypt and the future, Egypt in space. And those specifically, and also like the mathematics that are in the pyramids, and they see in relation to other things. But there really is a lot out there, and it is curiosity killed the cat as far as like YouTube wormholes go.
Totally.
Yeah. What about you?
Lately, the thing that's been kind of keeping me distracted from what's going on currently is the thought of this lost civilization Tataria and this mud flood reset that may have happened in the mid to late 1800s, and then the rewriting of history and the orphan trains that repopulated these cities and have brought us to where we are today. Apparently, like if you look at a lot of the states, they all have capitol buildings that look very similar. And if you go back and look when they were being built, there's no real photos of them actually being built. They're just kind of there. And then the timelines don't really match up, and it's like, well, if they were building these extravagant buildings like this, why are the roads still made of dirt? And then if you look at like if you look up the excavation of the Capitol in Washington D.C., there's like 3 or 4 floors underneath that is like, well, did they like build this and then fill it in? So yeah, that's what we've been kind of digging into. It is like this civilization that may have been started like in Russia somewhere, and they like, that's kind of what the land bridge and came across, and there was like all these cities like Salt Lake City, Colorado, Denver, some of the cities in the Midwest that they may have been connected, because there's all this crazy architecture all over the world that we're just now starting to find out about, and like the timelines of or the world expositions and the world's fairs of like the late 1800s or the early 1900s, where they're like, you built this in 2 years and then you took it all down or destroyed it. And then most cities, if you type in any major city in the United States, there's probably a great fire that occurred between say like 1860 and 1920.
Gotcha, dude. I just typed it in on the floods of Tatara theory.
Check out on you, or type in Pearson, the Veil of Illusion. The lady's name is Michelle Gibson. She is our mud flood gal. We've had her on the podcast. Her YouTube channel is amazing. There's another guy out there named John Levi. He's
Piercing the Veil of Illusion.
Piercing the Veil of Illusion. Yeah.
You guys are just loading up my tabs right now.
Be careful, because you will, especially if you put it on 2.5 times speed, you might be all night watching those videos.
Yeah, when me and my girlfriend first met, we literally would go watch ones that were like UFOs and Nazis, like the technologies that were lost or hidden or all that stuff. And she'll get a kick out of these too.
Did you guys check out Operation High Jump?
No, dude, loading it up. I got Aeropress, Veil of Illusion, Tataria, Hank Williams.
Yeah, the Operation High Jump is like the Antarctica expedition with Admiral Richard Byrd, and apparently his interaction with people, aliens that came out of the center of the South Pole in Antarctica, but were also had German accents. So there's this thought, and there's also Hitler and a lot of the SS and stuff escaped to South America, and then there's like places in Argentina and Chile where they're like straight up Bavarian cities in these countries that everyone there speaks German and stuff.
Dude.
Yeah, and a couple more. Operation Mockingbird. You definitely want to look into that one too.
That sounds familiar. Operation Mockingbird.
That's pretty much how the CIA controls the news.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
But
I mean, somebody controls the news. The question is who it is at every turn. Operation Mockingbird. Yeah, I've heard of this. That one I've heard of. It is interesting reading the news right now. I don't want to get into it, but it is interesting reading the news right now, and I would heavily encourage anyone who is listening that when you are reading the news is watch specifically how they word things, specifically how they carry things, specifically the difference between a headline and what things actually say. It's like so interesting when I started getting into it lately, where I'd like read a headline and like go research information on it. It's like, and all of this is like I was saying, with a bead of truth and then spreading it across. There's so many things, especially when you look at left and right media that they take a bead of truth and just take it so far and manipulate it to the point where it's so far, they're leading you so far away from where the breadcrumb actually was dropped. It's just very it's very interesting. It's the first time where I've really been paying attention to it as much as I have.
Have you seen those clips where they show a newscaster, say maybe from Fox, say something, and then they show someone from like CBS say something, and it's the same thing, and then they like go across all of them and they're all saying the same thing? That's the shit that blows my mind. Yeah.
Especially because it's all like, we're here at the small town. But yeah, I've seen those ones.
Have you seen Frankenskies?
No.
Put that on the list,
dude. Load it up. I'm gonna have to screenshot this project.
And if you check that all out and you like it and you want more, hit us up. Frankenskies.
Frankenskies. Dude.
Sweet. Ethan, thank you so much for your time today. This was epic. We were fans coming on, even more of a fan now, talking to you, finding out what you're about. So thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for the time. And again, thank you so much for texting. Like I said, I'm a little bit airy in the head. So it was, I was glad to see a text and be like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah,
we
no, thanks
appreciate
for
your
making it
time.
happen.
Absolutely, guys. Enjoy the day.
Thanks. Have a
Take
great night.
care.